Hi, I'm Will.
I'm Leslie.
I'm Nash,
I'm Ryan.
I'm John.
and we are Eyes for Ace. So one day I came home from school and turned on the TV and saw on the news that school districts in other states were starting to put advertisements on the side of school buses. And I thought to myself, now why would they be doing that? And at that moment I realized that school districts throughout the nation were receiving major budget cuts. As you can see, since the recession of 2008, 324,000 jobs have been lost in government and education, and 35 states have been providing less money than before the recession. And of these 35 states, 6 of them are the most populous in the nation, with California losing 15% and Illinois losing 9%. Now, even though there's this huge recession going on, which is causing major problems in the school funding and educational programs, there's still a bright side going on. In 2013 to 2014, 23 million technology devices were purchased in school districts throughout the nation, and $3 billion has been spent on digital content. Now, this shows the transfer from a traditional learning environment to a new digital platform, which is benefiting school environments.
As I'm sure all of you already know, timing of a new company can be essential to its success. For us, it's no exception. With schools losing funding and more schools getting one-on-one programs, we believe that Eyes for Ace is coming in just the right time. So, we would use a system called network verification, which is the same system that a hotel uses to verify that you're connected to their Wi-Fi. So from the point of view of the student, this is what they would see. A window will pop up like this with an ad. So meatheads, Rivers half off, students see this, they consider going to their after school, they click this button to verify that they're connected, and then they go to their day-to-day activities.
So we have 3 main competitors in this: Boingo, Alpha Media, and Channel News. Boingo, as Ryan said, uses network verification. Alpha Media is a company that advertises on school buses, and Channel News donates TVs to schools with the condition that they have to watch a 12-minute educational video and 2-minute ad video at the end. So what makes us stand out? Well, we combine the positives out of all these companies, like we take the network verification from Boingo and put it into schools, and we show our ads for less time, and we give the schools the revenue, and they can choose what they want to do with it, unlike Channel News. And we put the ads in a media type way, unlike Alpha Media, where they just put physical ads on school buses. And for TAM, we got around 417.6 million, and that's calculated by the 58 million students in the nation. And our SAM is calculated by the students and faculty in Illinois, which is 14.4 million. And our market share is 143,000, and that's calculated by the students and faculty around the suburbs.
So let's look at the money a little more closely. For our advertising system, we have our cost per thousand at $6. Now, the reason we got that money is we reached out to Starcom MediaVest Group, and they told us that on average, for a company like ours, we could get $7 to $10 for our cost per thousand impressions. Now, the reason we put it at $6 is because we believe being a startup company and being high schoolers, we aren't necessarily an established business, so we can't charge those prices yet. But really, if you can see our growth of revenue, all of our growth from the 24,000 in year 1 to the 1.2 million in year 5 is based off our growth in schools. One thing that we learned was that when you're trying to get schools to implement this Eyes for Ace, you don't go for one school at a time, but you actually go for certain districts that share the same policies. So that's where we get that growth from. We actually plan in year 5 to implement 30 schools, so that's why we have the significant growth. It's not necessarily from the cost per thousand impressions, but essentially just the growth in schools themselves. So, and also at the same time, we don't have any COGS because we are a software company. So once we develop it the first time, we don't have to continue repeating the development of it. Okay, so let's look at the SG&A. For our software development salary, we have that at $75,000 annually. The reason why we have that price is we believe that it's important to find someone who's experienced and reliable to develop the salary so we can have a secure system that works across all schools. For our team salary, those will be years 3 through 5, where each one of us will have $15,000 annually. And the reason for that is we want to continue working on this, but we also need money to work on this on the outside. And we plan to do sales, so we plan to go to businesses and schools to see if they would join Eyes for Ace. Years 3 through 5 as well will be including office rent and Wi-Fi. The office rent will be $900 around, and Wi-Fi will be around $100 approximately, which will mean that's $1,000 per month. Traveling costs will be $3,600 in the first 2 years, and that will basically include gas money, because we plan in the first 2 years to just outreach in the Illinois area itself. However, years 2 through 5 will expand to $10,000 annually, mainly because we expect to go outside of Illinois, and that will include flight costs and also hotel rooms if we go to certain conventions or meet with schools and businesses. And in terms of marketing, we are a manual sales force. So that means our marketing costs are relatively small. In the first year, we expect around a few $100s in marketing, and mainly this is just used because we want companies and schools to remember us. So with those marketing costs, we will use like just flashcards or certain flyers just so they can remember us. But in general, we're just a manual sales force. So we don't want them to come to them, we don't want them to come to us, we're coming to them. So our second component is our startup costs. So we have two pieces. First, we have the legal costs. The LLC document, which I'm sure you all understand, is just so it states that we are a viable business, a legal business, is around $500. Our copyright is $170 to protect what we do to create the software, and our trademark, which is Eyes for A's, is around $300, which is a total of $1,000 itself. Now, the big cost right now is the software development, and that will be $30,000, and that will be put into paying the salary of the software developer through the first 4 months, and then a portion of the 5th month, because that time will be used to develop the software so we can implement into schools.
For MVP, we have two components. The first being the school component, where we met with schools around the area and asked them their thoughts about our product, and then if they'd be interested in implementing this in their schools. We talked to all three of these districts, mainly District 214, where we actually were invited to a breakfast, and we pitched our idea in front of all the schools in District 214. And the main thing they said about our product was that they want to see a finalized product before they make any commitments, and then they want to see finalized numbers. Now, we gave them the finalized number, but we weren't able to give them the actual finalized product because we just don't have the money to.
Have a good day. The second part of our MVP component is with companies. We're working with large companies and smaller local companies. Maybe larger companies, because in the later years we want to focus on them because that's where we can get the most money out of. The two main companies that we talked to were Beambo and Rubbermaid. That was through Family Connections. And we were able to meet with their marketing teams for Beambo and then have phone calls with Rubbermaid. And after meeting with them, they're the same as the schools, and they wanted to see the financials and a finalized product, but they love the idea and saw the potential in our business.
Now, we learned a lot through our MVPs. We made some changes to our business model. The first being in customer relationships, we learned that emails weren't a very effective way of communication with companies and schools, so we changed it to just manual calls. And then channels, we learned that schools are mainly using Chromebooks and iPads for their technology, so we expanded that through our software. And then for our UVP, we learned that in schools we need to have some sort of guidelines for these advertisements because they can't be inappropriate for the students. And also learned, like Will said, through talking with Starcom, that companies pay per 1,000 impressions. And along with that, we kind of, our cost per 1,000 impressions was very high at first. We lowered it down to 6. And then finally, cost structure, we added marketing and travel costs because we could travel around to talk to these schools and companies.
So here are capital funds. I already discussed the startup costs and what they'll be used for. And the reason for the maximum cumulative loss being $19,884 is because when we first implemented the salary for the software developer, which is $75,000 annually, we will only have 2 schools. We plan to have 2 schools in the first year, which won't generate enough revenue to stay above water in the first year. However, we plan to expand rapidly through the following years to come, and that's why we have that growth in years 4 and 5. So in the first year, that's why our maximum cumulative loss is there. And our liquidity cushion is $5,000, and that is basically used just to prepare for the extra time in developing the software salary in the next following months. So that brings us to a total of $55,884 for our funding. So for that $55,884, we are offering 13.8% of our company. Our pre-revenue valuation is $350,000 plus the $55,000, and that will result in a post-revenue valuation of $405,000. So our net income exit multiple is 3 times, and the reason for this is because most software development companies in software are around 8 to 12 times, but that's for a post-revenue business, and at the same time we're also high schoolers, so we understand that we are a greater risk than an established business are. So that's where we get our justification for our exit multiple. Our exit year is year 5, and it's important there because that is where our greatest growth is. And we plan to sell to a strategic buyer like Google or Mindshare or any form of media advertisement system. Our IRR is 55.3%, and our money multiple is 8.8, and the 8.8 is you take the $55,000, and by year 5, we plan to give back over $400,000 to the investors. We are Eyes for Race, thank you, and we are by the students, for the students.
Are you doing any marketing in the first couple of years?
We don't plan to. We plan to do strictly manual outreach. So that means we'll do calls, we'll contact schools, like manually, and businesses. And we believe that this is much more important, like, way to spend our money because we have other focuses on how we need to spend our money. We do have some costs, and those are just mainly just like handing out certain flyers and certain things like that, just so we can be remembered. But we are almost strictly manual outreach.
Did you say that you were giving the revenue to the schools?
Yes.
So you're a nonprofit?
Well, we give them half of it. So in the graphs, it was cut in half, which is like, well, we take, but the other half we give it to them.
So they get $3 of the cost per impression and you get 3.
Yes.
Can you walk us through back on your financial slide? What I wrote down is that your net income, I think, was $800,000, your revenue's $1.2 million. That'd be as profitable companies I've ever seen. Can you help us understand that?
Okay.
Year 5, just jump to year 5. I get all the first couple of years, but let's help me understand how you got to that.
Well, we are justifying our growth through expansion in schools. You know, when we first did this, when we did the MVP pitch, we had $1 million actually in year 1 because we believed that it would be $50 per 1,000 impressions. So we made our first change to actually $6 per 1,000 impressions. But for year 5, the reason we justify our growth is through expansions in schools. We strongly believe that once we get through years 1, 2, 3, and 4, we can expand on an additional 30 schools upon what we already have in the established around 30 previous schools. So we started with 2, and then we work our way up to 5, 10, 15, and then 30 schools in year 5. And basically, I'd also like to add that this is a period-based system, so at the beginning of each period, when you open up your computer, you see the advertisement really quickly, then you click off, and that's how we justify it. And then those 1,000 impressions will make the $6, or the $3 for us.
Well, so the 31K is the legal cost and the software development?
Yes.
What do you have planned for software development?
We plan to hire a software developer, and through the $75,000 annual salary, which is our projection, we plan to use that money for the salary to begin the first steps of the software development.
The 75,000 comes from where?
The 75, the reason we're under in the first year is because we have those costs, and we also, it's $75,000 in the first year. However, we do generate the $23,000 in revenue, and then we have the investment costs as well.
So Will, if you got a $75,000 cost in there between 23 and 19, you don't have 75 to cover anything.
Right.
So there's got to be a gap because there's
No,
only 40
Sorry, in the first year, the investment, the reason why it's like that is because actually the first 4 months and a large portion of the 5th month are already covered by the investment costs.
by the equity or by us.
Yes.
Okay.
56K.
So the cost per thousand, there's 10,000 students in 220. Is an impression count every time you open your computer and you see the ad?
It really depends on the system because in certain systems, yes. For our system, it's we intend to do that. If you look at something like YouTube, the way it works is you have a full video, and then some companies actually pay to have their video run the entire time, so you're actually forced to watch it. And then other times it has.
Okay, but in our world, those 10,000 students, how many impressions per day are there going to be?
All right. Well, if you have 10,000 students, and then each of those students would possibly 7 to 8 times a day, that would be 70 to 80,000. However, we're focusing on variants in high school.
Okay, so let's do it for 3,000 students. Every student's going to say open up 7 times, so there's 21,000 impressions a day. If I'm thinking about this correctly, an advertiser is going to pay you $6 times 21 to have their name on the splash page every time. Is that correct?
Well, the way
It's about $120, or is that right?
Well, the way it would work is it's like kind of like a combination of different companies, so they would pay per in chunks of thousands. So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily that one company.
I got it. I'm just thinking of the customers as a whole. Okay, so that's how an impression works. You then run it all the way out, and you chase it through, and that's half of the revenue going to the school.
Yes.
So to program in the splash page, is it that big of software development? Just to say, gosh, I want to put dog tracks on the cover of everyone's laptop, and next week I'll rotate it around and.
Well, it's not difficult because all the school systems have different network verification systems. They're all from one company called Cisco, but Cisco makes an individual one for each company. So we need to create a platform that can adapt to each different school system.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the integration piece.
One thing you may want to think about if I'm a school district saying, hey, as part of signing this up, we're going to give you half of the impressions, we're going to go sell it. It's found money, but you have to give us an IT resource to work within your system about putting these pages up. We're going to make it real easy for you, but they in essence host it or something like that, or they pay you a startup cost to help fund this development. Because I would imagine once you develop Barrington High School from an IT standpoint, it runs on, it'll kind of.
You're actually, I can, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go, you.
When we talked about
You want to get up there?
Sorry,
I'm sure some of you know Russ Banner Mays. He basically runs the IT department of Bid District 220. And when I talked to him, he said it would be extremely expensive to run this because with the school's network, we have to verify each student that connects to the Wi-Fi. And with the hotel network verification that we want to use, he said it wouldn't be really viable. There's not really an option with Cisco. So we'd have to contact Cisco and ask them how to make this. And this is also different because not every school, not every district uses Cisco. So we'd have to contact each and every Wi-Fi network, run like administrator, how to do this and if it's even possible. So this is why it runs so high when we calculate all the prices.
Fair enough.
If we go back to your evaluation as well, you're asking for 56,000, I believe, right? And then go into the equity percentage because you had it all there. What you use I forget what exit multiple you use because you're very profitable. So did you use an exit year 3? Is that what happened? You're making 800 grand net income, right? So 1x, you're already worth 800 grand, right? So help me understand how you got to, right? Your net income, if you use a 3-time multiple, would it be 2.4 million?
Correct, yes.
And so wouldn't our 45,000 be over that, or 56,000 over 3.2 million? Am I missing something?
We had 13%.
I based this 13.8% solely off of the worksheet that we used to like develop this. So I think this 13.8% is based off of the valuations post valuation.
Well, 2.5 times 14% is what?
I think that's the
400 grand?
400 grand divided by 50 is 8. We're going to get 400 back.
Oh,
No, I'm not,
sorry.
I'm wondering, it's
I forgot to also put in that we have a 60% discount
Rate.
That's also.
Okay. Well, and plus the stream of income you generate through the first 5 years.
True.
The one thing that seems to be missing, and it could be me, is you need to have advertisers to come into this network. So how are you going to acquire all those advertisers? Where are they coming from?
Well, it's with what we have for the manual cost that we're going out and outreaching to them because we realize that they're not going to come to us.
So how many advertisers are you going to need in order to get, because they're the ones actually paying, right? So manually calling that many advertisers seems, I feel like that's a really underestimated part of this project of acquiring, and that there isn't any marketing plan to do that. It's,
Cold call is what you said.
yeah, they're basically cold calling, but I'm just saying, how many advertisers do you need in
1 minute.
order to make these numbers per month, say?
Per school.
Per
Let's just
school,
take
per
Barrington
school.
High School, how many different advertisers would be involved?
Okay, well, on average, if we have 8 advertisements per day, obviously one company wouldn't fill every single of those slots per period. It would maybe want to do 2 times per day, so that would be around 4 companies for that specific day, and then it would probably cycle through with around 10 companies or so for that week that are cycling through on advertisements. So
And they might repeat every week, so you're thinking like 10 or 20 advertisers for the whole year per school?
Awesome.
And what would it, how much would an advertiser spend to get into that school? What are they looking to come, how much money is it gonna cost them?
Well, that's what our CPM costs.
Right, $6 times
$6 and $6 per 1,000 impressions. So, you know, if they were to
$120
take,
a day
yeah,
To buy the whole school?
to buy the whole school.
For how long, right?
Well, that's per day, is, you know, because you said
So
eight,
to
eight,
by month.
yeah, so then times a week, times a month, times 10, that's the revenue, that to me
This
is the
math
whole.
question is the last question.
That's the business.
That's all you're allowed.
You're an advertising.
well, like something we learned is obviously companies don't pay per impression. They will pay for maybe like a set of like 20,000, 30,000, or like 100,000 impressions. So that's not what kind of space it out.
And they can slide it out depending.
But you think 10 advertisers or a dozen advertisers would be enough to get you there?
Well, that's 172 days at 21,000 impressions at $6 is $22,000 a year per school.
Per school.
And the school gets half,
Right.
so it's $10,000 of money for the school. I think you're really gonna need to look at this on a district-wide basis to make it work for the school. But
Thank you.
Evan.
Thank you.